Alrighty, everyone. Chat, how's it going? Well, I guess not another Monday night. 'Cause we shifted to the left because my kid starts swim lessons next week, so overlaps. I didn't realize they were so scheduled so late, but yeah, night swim lessons. So anyway, yeah, we're doing it Sunday night. Happy Father's Day to all the daddies out there. I had a pretty good one. How about yourself, Jesse? Did you do anything today?
Yeah, well, I had to work, so that was kind of a bummer. But once work was done, it was a pretty good day. Grilled some steaks. My little dude's kind of an artist, so he did a painting for me, which was pretty cool. He's got a love of big giant monsters.
Nice.
So he did a nice big giant monster for me.
Raising him right, dude.
Yeah, and so that was pretty much it. Just dinner with the family, and trying to save that vacation day for other stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do the self-made little kid stuff. It gets you in the feels, man. My daughter, she printed out this little. My wife helped her, but she printed out this little sheet with these questions, what is your daddy like, all this other stuff, and it was she says things I like to say booger butt, and she put a little sticky note that said butt cheeks, and just all the stupid stuff we say to each other. Legit cried a little. I was like, oh gosh, this is so sweet. But yeah, man, it was a good Father's Day weekend. But anyway, welcome to Carbines and Cantrips. Tonight we are talking about stories 7 and 8 in the Raconteur Presses anthology Wyrd Warfare. Story 7 is The Goats of Darvoz by Darvoz by Ross Baxter, and story number 8 is The Dragon Proglem by Fiona Grey. Yeah, man, and if anyone who ends up watching this later or anything, if you are reading along, great. If you're not reading along and you want to check out the anthology, I do have it linked in the description, but you can also see on the screen here the cover if you just go to Amazon and type in Wyrd Warfare, look for that cover and scoop it up. But yeah, dude, what did you think about these two stories? I guess we'll start with number 7, The Goats of Darvoz.
It was good. The Anthos still has not disappointed me with a chosen story.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been I haven't been bored. I haven't been I kind of want to skip this one. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of with anthologies. It's oh, well, what if I only like half of what's in here?
Yeah.
They can all be good. Yes, they can, in fact, all be good. That is a thing that we work really hard to make happen. Again, shout out to Chris. Great job with selections.
Mm-hmm.
This one's fun to me because this one's a horror story.
Yeah.
This is not urban fantasy. This is not military fantasy. This is straight up. This is a full-on horror story.
Get your spoiler tag.
Oh yeah, hold on. Yeah, Garrett's gonna get mad at me if I don't hunt it down. How to know?
This is a spoiler-heavy stream, everybody.
Been in your room. Where? Oh, hold on. I got it. Give the dog, everything gets knocked around. Yes. Spoiler alert. We are talking about stories. We are going to talk about them, not dance around them. There is no titty tapping here. If you haven't read them and you're worried about the spoiler, go read them, then come back.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Definitely horror. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, it's cool. That's really the big thing. This is straight up horror story.
Yeah. So I guess the rundown for the Goats of Darvoz is it starts off with he's an electrical engineer, I think. His name is Gul. I don't remember his last name. First name Gul, Gul, if I'm not mistaken. And anyway, so this is post the America's withdrawal in Afghanistan. So one thing I kind of like about that with this setting is there's not a whole lot of world building or a lot of info dumps that the author needs to do. Is everybody, hopefully who's reading this is familiar with, at least to some degree, the withdrawal of Afghanistan and what a cluster that was, and kind of this story should make sense to them without having to do any research. Hopefully. Yeah.
If anybody's been paying attention for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Maybe more now, 25 years.
Yeah. I liked this character because he was he's not he's Taliban, but he's well, this is my job. I live here. what am I going to do? Fight the Taliban? I'm just a little like dorky engineer with a briefcase. So he's like, you know, he's not a bad guy, but he's just making the best out of the situation that he's in, which is unfortunately being employed by the Taliban.
Yeah, that makes the story interesting for me, and this is a really American kind of level perspective. But it's like this is a group of men and their affiliates that like were the enemies of our country for my entire adult life. And it's a horror story, and so there's this kind of weird balance that ends up happening where it's like I don't feel sad when Taliban dudes meet their end in a bad way.
Yeah.
Doesn't, you know, like, but it's still a horror story, and there's a humanizing element, like you said, with Gold, because Gold's like, he's just the dude that's stuck in the country he was born in. Like it's like, you know, hey man, I'm stuck here. I'm an electrical engineer. They need me, and they're the ones in charge. I got to do what I got to do. Like,
yeah.
And so yeah, it was interesting because I never was like. I was interested, and it's a really good story, but at the same time, I'm never like, oh no, poor Ali. Like it's like it's just like
not Nazir. No, he was a good one.
Yeah, like that's you don't like. I don't get that same. I don't get a massive character attachment, but at the same time, the story's pacing is extremely interesting. I am interested in what happens with Goal, and so it was a unique balance of emotion in the story, again, purely from, you know, an American perspective.
Yeah, I definitely did not feel bad for any of the Taliban. In fact, I guess I'll say that once we get a little bit further along in the rundown. But yeah, so anyway, Goal is an engineer. He's working to basically go salvage parts because like we left all that equipment behind, and it's all like you know, like missiles, guns, vehicles. But like a lot of that stuff, most of the stuff's disabled. So basically, I guess the Taliban came across these like a cache of missiles, but they don't have any gyroscopes in order to guide. I don't know how missiles work, but basically to help guide the missile. So he's going with these. He gets sent to this airfield, and it's a bunch of janky equipment everywhere. He pulls up to this like super old Soviet helicopter with a couple of Taliban dudes sitting around it, and he's like, "Oh God, I don't want to get on this thing." Super sketchy. Kind of meets the crew, and I do like one. I don't like how, like you said, I don't have an attachment to them because they're Taliban, and I don't really feel bad for them. But I did like that there's kind of like, you know, a little tropiness to them. Like there's like the leader, it's kind of like no nonsense, and there's like the I don't remember their names, but when they get in the truck, the guy in the driver's seat who kind of thinks every idea that Goal has is stupid and does like is super aggressive and like kind of mean to him, and the other guy is kind of like a little bit more cowardly and more willing to like, you know, maybe we should listen to this guy so we can get out of this thing. I liked how he had all these different pieces or tropes, personalities, whatever, in the little Taliban crew.
Yeah, I mean, there were people. There were people, and that's, you know, like I don't think the story is dehumanizing in any way. I just think that it's, like I said, this is a personal thing. This personal thing is like someone who remembers the whole shebang of Afghanistan, whose, you know, family fought in the war. It's the story does a very good job of making them feel human, but at the same time, it's the same time probably cold, like people that grew up with Cold War. It's like, oh no, not Russians getting killed. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's the time. No, exactly. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Yes, very sad.
That's So, but no, I did like that. I like that they do feel like people, and it does. It gives this story feels. How can I put this? For anybody out there that hasn't read it yet but is still watching, if you enjoyed the horror aspects of Predator, this probably is going to feel similar, and you're probably going to enjoy the horror aspects here.
Kind of a funny horror aspect, though.
Yeah.
I guess I'll speed up. So anyway, he gets on this janky helicopter. He's like, well, I can't do anything. I'm already on it. So he's like, he takes a nap, wakes up to the helicopter crashing into the side of a mountain.
That's what you get for taking a nap.
Yeah, the pilot breaks his neck. And they get out, and they're like, I don't know, I think the nearest settlement or whatever is like 20 miles away. And then they point out there's like this shack up on a ridge somewhere, so they go check it out. But the sergeant or the captain, whoever, the guy in charge of the squad, stays behind while the little nerdy scientist and 3 soldiers go to check out the shack. and there's this like old stinky urine lady that's like from what she tells Gull, she's super old, probably like a witch. She basically says like,
yeah, it was an old witch.
Watch, you're not gonna. These guys are soldiers, so they're not gonna get off the mountain alive. The goats might leave you alone because you're not a soldier. Which that right there, like that kind of like put like a little foreboding, like instant. Oh God, like what's going on with these goats? And then like the whole like they might murder and then rape you, or they might rape you and then murder you. That's just the kind of goats they are.
Yeah.
I will say.
That's how the goats are feeling.
yeah, with the whole like, oh no, not the Taliban. Like I was like, I kind of wished, and maybe I just didn't read it, and maybe I didn't pick up on it, but I kind of wish it was a little more explicit. And it's kind of twisted, I guess, to ask about that or want this in there. But like maybe one of the goat got back at these terrorists for what they've done to their brethren for years, and was like kind of graphic, just like going to town on some Taliban dude from behind. They got hit with the horns and everything, but like did not get the full on R word. No. Didn't get graped. Which I feel like would have been a super hardcore, awesome scene for, I don't know. Like you said, I don't feel bad for the Taliban, too.
Yeah. I think most, when that first introduction happened, I was like, yeah, I don't think they're going to play it that way. Because I know with most anthos, most mainstream publishing, there's like kind of an R movie kind of, you know what I mean, like cut off.
Yeah,
like, and so I was like, I sincerely doubt we're gonna go the full super like that. Like we can't go that deep into that. But I did find it funny that when the corpse from the pilot was gone,
his trousers.
The pilot died in that plane. But his pants were still there.
Yeah.
So, and that was a kind of a dark.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I did read that, but I totally forgot about it by the end. Yeah. So yeah, I guess they do kind of like Ross, I guess, did hint at it. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt like, yes, goats, get your revenge on the Taliban, dude. After all your suffering.
Not to mention the goats had bloody superpowers.
Yeah, dude. Well, they had like pure black eyes. They had razor sharp teeth. What else did they have going for them?
I'm sorry, but most. Some breeds of goat are different, but most breeds of goat that I've ever encountered, most of the time their horns sweep back. They're not like point forward.
Yeah.
But there's several times that these goats, like they headbutt a dude and they headbutt him hard enough that they like headbutt into the dude.
Yeah.
And like puncture. And that was, so either the goats all have pointy horns that face the opposite direction of most, what's the word I'm looking for? Domesticated breed of goats, or the goats were just headbutting so hard that they could punch a blunt horn into somebody. That was
I don't know. So, I've seen some goats like in Sicily that are really weird, and they kind of like spiral straight up. I mean, there's probably I haven't seen any goats in Afghanistan, but I feel like from just like movies and stuff. I don't feel like I've seen like what you're like anything with something that faces forward, but who knows? Yeah, maybe they're just the curse. I mean, the curse changed their teeth, so why not their
why not their horns too?
Their horns and their eyeballs are like pure black, which is cool because it makes me think of like like demons from like Supernatural, or I'm sure there's a bunch of other movies where the demons have pure black eyes in shows or whatever.
Yeah, and no, absolutely, it gave that feel. At one point, it's like, oh, like literally, one of the guys literally says, "Those aren't goats; they're demons."
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely did give that feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, they go to the old lady's shack up on the mountain, and originally Gull's like, "Dude, there's nobody here. This place has been fought over for centuries. Like it's a desolate wasteland." And they're like, "No, you stupid bookworm! Like there's a house over there. Let's go check it out." Turns out she's like an old medicine woman or some voodoo mama juju lady. Because it sounds like she's like super old. Like she said she was assaulted by, I don't remember the name of the empire. You probably know better than I do. The last empire that came through there, and assaulted her, and then the medicine woman basically cursed the goats to make sure that any soldiers that came through that area were murdered horribly and assaulted by goats. But anyway, she gives him directions to get down the mountain so they can get to the settlement so they can continue on with their mission of getting these gyroscopes so the Taliban can use the missiles. So she gives them the directions. They go back. I didn't really get a feel for how far away the shack was from where the crash was at, but I feel like it wasn't far. Like at least line of sight. Did you feel like?
Yeah, I got that same. I got the feeling that it was like that ridge over there. So like you just turned your and Afghanistan. Me having been there and only have seen like maps and photos and stuff like that. Afghanistan has different places in the country that have like a different kind of like an entirely different kind of geography, if that makes sense. So there's like the really mountainy areas, and the really mountainy areas, like dudes were having 800-meter gunfights because they were like, you could look across the mountain and it would be, you know, across an entire valley, but you could still see the guy sitting over there. So they were exchanging fire with each other. Yeah. And then there's other places that are like really flat and kind of, you know, like a whole different terrain type, basically. So I don't know Afghanistan well enough to know, like they kind of tell you in the story, they're like, oh yeah, we're this far from this border and it's whatever. I don't know that country well enough to be able to do that. So I took it kind of like you took it, where it's like it was within eye shot, basically, from where the crash was.
Yeah. So they basically hightail it back to Nazir. I think Nazir's the leader guy, and when they get there, he's dead. He's cut open from neck to nuts, just like flayed open. His intestines are everywhere. Pilot's gone, but like we said, the trousers remained. They throw a grenade in the helicopter to blow it up just in case there's something hiding in there.
It was so like Middle Eastern military, like the stereotypical like just spraying bullets and throwing bombs and not like nobody actually figure out, like it's like, hey, let's just be safe and just shoot at whatever until I have buddies that literally tell stories about like one bullet came in and then all of a sudden all of their partner troops were shooting in every direction. And this absolutely felt that way.
Yeah, I think Ross got to nail that jankiness, because like when they're in the helicopter and they crash and he gets out and he's like, why did we crash? Or he's like, is it going to blow up? And he's like, nah, we ran out of fuel. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, the fuel gauge was stuck. It must have been stuck or something. I was like, wow. Good pre-flight checks, dude.
Yeah. But somehow I don't think being in a country that's like way out in the middle of nowhere and has one airport ever doesn't lend itself to having a lot of really skilled helicopter pilots.
Probably not. Let's see. Well, something else I like kind of about his pacing is like it kind of like jumps like this, like I don't know. It's not like fast or disjointed or anything, but it's fast paced. Like he gets into the helicopter, boom, it crashes, and then we go to the shack. Okay, weird reveal. There's murder goats in the mountains. When we get back to the helicopter, okay, there's dead bodies everywhere. Next spot, there's a goat. We passed some goats. Oh, there's goats behind us. Now this guy's dead. They just impaled him through the chest, and then, it's not like, it doesn't feel like rushed or anything. But I think it's really well, like, fast-paced from one event to the next event, getting down the mountain.
Yeah, it's good short story pacing. Good short story pacing is all about telling a lot of story in a little amount of time, and this absolutely hammers that. It, again, I think Predator does the same thing. It's able to take a military action movie, turn it into a horror movie, and then turn it full sci-fi. Yeah. And it does that all in one movie. So you got 3 movies in one movie. And I think that this is, the way that this story develops, it is developing from one kind of story into another kind of story, and it does it very well.
Yeah. I really like the way he plays between like Goal. I don't know if I'm saying this name right. Goal, and the Taliban is really cool, because like they just don't take him seriously, and it's like that. They're like, even though they're clearly they are way more uneducated than he is. Like he's very smart, and they're not. But they just like look down on him because he's not a warrior or whatever, and they think they laugh at the idea of him looking like a professor. Like they think school is like so stupid. But anyway, like so like their attitude towards them kind of like is their downfall, especially with the first guy of the three that ends up getting killed because he's like, the goats are coming, and he just like runs by them. They're like, who cares if the goats are coming? And next second, the dude gets some horns through the chest. Yeah, and then I think there's two goats that coming at him. One gets the guy in the chest. I think they shoot the other one, and he even tries to help the guy. Yeah. And the other one, the guy takes a knife out and like jabs it in the other goat's throat, and it's still like trying to kill the dude. I don't know if there's like, are we gonna get age restricted on this, or whatever?
How many? We're like what, 20 minutes in? I think we're okay.
Yeah, we're good.
I think we can. The thing I've been told changes all the time, but there's something like between 8 and 14 minutes that if you hold off your F-bombs and your dark stuff, it gets okay after that.
Oh, okay, cool.
I don't know how YouTube works.
Yeah, me neither. At least not to that degree. Yeah, so they end up hauling ass. I can't remember. Did the goats start, because they killed those two, and then they come across that truck. They were being chased at that point, right? Or no?
Yeah. So the goats, they kill the first two, but there's like always more goats.
Yeah.
The hills have eyes, and they blink at you. So it's like they once they figure out like, oh no, the goats are carnivorous and murderous, then they realize how many like actual goats there are, and now everybody's accepted the threat, and now we're to like the chase scene, the don't go into the long grass portion of this of this tale for you Jurassic Park fans.
Yeah.
So then, they, like you said, they find the old armored car, and bail in because that's pretty much the only shelter they have.
Yeah, I like that too, because that reminds me of like some X-Files episodes where basically you find this point that is like, it's like your salvation. It's going to keep you safe from one threat, like the main threat of the story, in this case, the murderous goats. But also, like, your salvation is not a safe space because it's a metal truck on top of a mountain in Afghanistan where it's crazy balls hot. So you can't roll the windows down because the goats will get in and rip you apart. So you literally either you get out of the truck and get murdered, or you stay in the truck and cook to death. So it's like you can't just. And even if it wasn't crazy hot, there's only so much water, so much food inside the truck. So there's this like countdown, which I love in stories. Like anytime that's a factor in a story, that kind of like makes the characters have to figure out a way to go forward. Cannot be complacent.
Yeah, it gives a reprieve from the problem. It doesn't fix the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked his solution because, like, they get like a little reset. Okay, we got to catch our breath. We're in here. We're surrounded by hundreds of carnivorous goats. God, this premise is just like it's scary and funny at the same time. Just like
there's a dark humor to the whole story.
Yeah. And so they're like, well, the battery's dead. There's no gas. So we can't like drive it. The keys are in the ignition, but there's no gas. There's no battery. Or did they say there's no gas? Because I think he said maybe we can jumpstart it or something.
Yeah, he said at one point, like, maybe if we can even get it rolling good, we can jumpstart it, which they never do. But I don't know enough about those old models to know which ones can jumpstart and which ones can't.
Yeah.
And the parking brake is discussed, but the shifting method never is.
Well, it said it was stuck in neutral, which I don't know why it would be stuck. I guess it's the manual, but I guess it was stuck in neutral, I guess. Yeah,
I never picked up, and maybe I never picked up if it was a manual or not. I would assume it's a manual.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
But yeah, it's who knows.
Yeah, but I did like the strategy that Gull came up with, like the like considering that the brakes are probably seized and having to shake back and forth to rocket free, because that's like that in itself is probably awful. Like when I was reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, that's probably like 1,000,000 degrees in there. You're like rocking back and forth, probably just like getting drenched in sweat. Like that's got to be an awful thing to do inside of an enclosed metal box in Afghanistan. But
Yeah.
they did it, and I thought his way of like having a guy on each side of the steering wheel to steer the very cumbersome rig was a good idea. I don't know, it's like the whole scene and how they started knocking as they start going downhill. They start knocking all the goats off them. Yeah, and then they get to the bottom and they kind of like try to wedge it in this opening of this like narrow passageway. It's not a passageway, but like a little cleft in the crevasse.
Yeah, it's a little narrow gorge.
Yeah. And they manage to slip through, but the biggest guy is too big and gets stuck, and then the goats just impale the crap out of him from behind with their horns. And then basically from that point on, it's just a full out sprint to try. I guess if they get past, there's this river on the other, like at the bottom of the mountain on the other side of a valley. There's this river, and the valley is filled with mines from I think the Soviets put them there from an old war, and so like they've got to get across that valley, across the river, and they should be safe. And they just start running. He's running so hard, and it's probably so hot. He's probably so dehydrated that he kind of like gets delirious and kind of blacks out as he's running, and doesn't like really realize
he's
what's
having
going
the
on.
heat stroke symptoms.
Yeah. But basically, he collapses and notices that the other guy got taken out, and it comes to like basically the final scene where he's surrounded, and he's like, "Okay, they're gonna kill me," and then they let him pass. And he remembers the old lady's words, like, "Oh, they might let you go because you're not a soldier." And so he goes to go across the river and steps on a landmine. Oh, dude, that ending, I personally thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, well, and it's, and I feel like the feeling, the interesting juxtaposition kind of deal of like, oh, these are humans, and like they're very well written human characters versus they're Taliban and I don't really care.
Yeah.
I feel like the ending hits so well because of that.
Yeah.
If I didn't feel that way, I would hate this. It would be like watching, again, I hate to use Predator again, but imagine like watching Predator and then at the very end of it, like Arnold beats the Predator, but then gets killed in like a helicopter crash or so. You know what I mean? Like it's something like he somehow ends up dead. Like he forgets about one of his own booby traps and it like, impales him or knocks him out of the way or something, or he steps on a landmine. Like, it wouldn't have worked if for me personally, this would have been like a nihilist story.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the dark humor of, again, the American perspective of like, there's no good guys here kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do agree that the ending was darkly funny, but also not unexpected. Just because of the kind of story that you could feel the story was.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we've had the foreshadowing of everything else show up, but everything the old witch talked about has occurred.
Yeah.
Except for the exploding ground. Which I don't know. I was kind of hoping they'd like run into the minefield and the goats would chase them, and then we'd have exploding goats.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too. I was like, oh, that's sweet.
Another super dark humor on it.
Yeah, or like the mines are like kind of also their salvation, but also very dangerous to them as well.
Yeah, but instead it ends our story because there's nobody left to follow.
Yeah, I literally laughed out loud when I read that, dude. I was like, But yeah, I think it like that last line was like, the goats like differentiate. I totally mispronounced that word. Between soldiers and civilians, but he's like, but mines don't.
But the landmine don't.
Yeah. It is. I don't know. I kind of like the. I don't know. Like maybe an evil curse can be more discriminate than human technology. Or humans, I guess. So yeah, I did. I like it was a cool little twist. But yeah, like you said, because so many things everything she mentioned came true. Honestly, I did not see him stepping on the mine. Because I got so set on, I was like, okay, all the goats are gonna start blowing up when they come down the mountain. And then when it didn't happen, I just like forgot about the mines for a second because it didn't happen. Yeah. And then I was like, then he blew up, and I was like, oh god, there he goes.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd make it. I'll put it that way. Even when the goats let him go, I did not think he would survive. That's kind of more than anything the feeling that I had.
Yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely there was if you can enjoy dark humor, that was absolutely a great dark humor ending.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun one, dude. I really like that. Shout out to Ross Baxter.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so
pretty
far
much.
in this anthology, the only author that I'm familiar with was Tyler, because I've had him on my show before, or on my channel.
Yeah,
So,
um, I mean, being lesser known, or I don't know if anybody's new or not, but lesser known or new has not stopped anybody.
yeah. I mean, there's just so many authors out there. Like, even if, they could be, some of these authors could be well known, and I just don't know who they are, because there's such a
Yeah,
mountain of authors out there.
yeah.
Or, I guess a sea of authors.
Hmm.
Yeah, dude. I think that's all I really have for the Goats of Darvoz. I liked it. It was funny. It was dark. I did like Goal a lot. I thought he was a cool, like, good dude. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think because I liked him so much, his death, I don't know, like, it did, because he wasn't like a bad, like you said, Arnold, like, he wasn't like this badass that was just taking everything on. I don't know. Yeah, his death just, it was funny to me, dude. Like, it worked at the end. I didn't feel like let down. I was just like, yep, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's so I Afghanistan's involved a little bit in some of the stories I end up writing, just because I write soldiers' perspective stuff sometimes, and like they call it the graveyard of empires for a
Hmm.
reason.
Yeah.
And so I've talked about this with all the other stories, but then here we have another story that takes a piece of history and a section of the world and really incorporates that history really well.
Yeah.
And I thought this one was cool because it doesn't, the military conflict and the military problem is not an active military conflict. It is a almost Cold War, like, hey, it's like we're gearing up for another, like they want they would not want the missiles because anybody's currently invading them. They don't want the missiles because there's some big fight going on right now.
Hmm.
They want the missiles because it increases their power for future fights.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it made highlighting that history of unending warfare in Afghanistan really, like, that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good parallel. I didn't think about it when I was reading it, but now that you point that out, um, yeah, that is cool. Uh, Mallory says the newest game from Mattel, Exploding Goats. Herman P. Hunter had some good perfectly cooked steak for Father's Day. That's awesome, dude.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, that's all. Unless you got anything else you want to add to the Goats of Darvoz.
Now let's tackle the dragon problem.
All right, The Dragon Problem by Fiona Grey, the 8th story in Wyrd Warfare. Yeah, I don't know if I like this one. This might be, I didn't hate it, but I'd say it's probably my least favorite of the stories I've read so far.
I can see how you would say that. I still thought it was a good story.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it later. The gear change is sudden and
yeah,
like really like, and there's little clues that I could see, like, hindsight's 2020, and like, okay, I can see where the clue was kind of going there, but
yeah,
it I feel like when you do a surprise twist or anything like that, you have to be really careful because you want everybody in the story to be surprised, but you don't want your reader so surprised that they don't understand what happened or where it's coming from. And I feel like we really rode the line hard in the story.
yeah, for sure. I think that's one of my gripes about it. What, like, side tangent, like, what's your opinion on, like, putting clues in? Like, do you feel like that's something that has to be done? Are there any examples where you can think of that you really like a story where they didn't give you any clues?
Um, so I feel like it's an all or nothing thing. If you're gonna give the clues, then you need to make them actually be clues.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a mystery writer, so this is not where this is purely as a reader. I'm not talking about anything professional here. I I write stuff getting blown up, y'all. I don't write mystery pieces. So I feel like from a reader's perspective, it either needs to like be true foreshadowing, and let you know, like, oh, hey, that sticks out as something that might be important later.
Yeah.
And in this story, at least for me, there's things that were kind of like, why were people surprised? Because I'll get back to that later, because I want to kind of keep some structure to this where we talk about the story kind of as it happens. But
yeah.
It doesn't. There's a reveal here that doesn't 100% make sense to me.
Yeah, it's the name.
And it's. So I feel like if you either need to lay breadcrumbs that are really like truly breadcrumbs,
yeah,
or you don't need to lay the breadcrumbs at all. And then if you don't lay the breadcrumbs at all, you can come back and be like, hey, well, you remember when this thing happened? There's a lot of movies and stories that do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, hey, remember when I thought it was weird that there was an inhaler on the dresser in that lady's apartment? And it's like, yeah, because that was his inhaler. He'd left it, and then he was here, and he was, and then you put it all together, and you go, oh, okay.
yeah.
And
yeah.
I didn't get an oh moment here. I got a what?
yeah, kinda. That's kind of, you know, I feel like you were kind of reading my notes a little bit there.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. So this one starts off with character's name is James Vinland. He's like an intelligence. Mm-hmm. He's a civvy, right? He's a civilian, as far as I can tell. Like he's a contractor at a government facility. There are some military members there. Yeah, so he goes into this. What's it called? It's like the TEC. Crap, I need to start
TTC.
TTC. He goes there. He got basically he's a new guy. His first day on the job. Gets introduced to a Major Gabriel, and starts showing him through this really complex, windowless blue cement with
facility.
Blue paint facility. It's very labyrinthian.
Brutalist.
Yeah,
is what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, so he's going through there, and we kind of get like these hints that like it's not like a regular facility. When he's like, don't drink the water. And he's like, oh, because of forever chemicals. And he's like, no. And he's like, what does he say? Does he say, don't touch the ceiling? I think that's the next thing. It's like, don't touch the ceiling.
Oh, yeah, the don't touch the ceiling one got me.
I was like, what?
Hey, don't try and fix the ceiling tiles. It's haunted. Don't just leave it alone. It'll be okay. It's fine.
Yeah. Or
like, and then he's like, what's in the ceiling?
yeah.
And they never answers him.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. It's like
that was good.
He gets hit with these like, what was that? And they just kind of move on to the next thing. Like, anyway, come along. You know, like, oh, the pictures. Don't use the pictures as a frame of reference for where you're going because they move around.
Yeah, they rotate sometimes.
Yeah, and then then they go to, I think the next thing is they meet the colonel, and the colonel's like, oh, I had an appointment canceled, so let's go have our meeting. And they go to this room to have a meeting, and then like. The Major Gabriel, anyway, his call sign is Archangel. The colonel calls him that when she comes up to him. So his name's Gabriel, call sign Archangel, which I thought at first I was like, okay, maybe that's just like his call sign because his name is Gabriel. And then they go into the office, boom, his angel wings come out. Now I can't tell like where they were talking. Like, is he actually an angel, or was it like some kind of like surgery that he underwent? Like some kind of like power that he got. He's not actually an angel, like X-Men. I
think it was closer to X-Men than it was like any kind of modification or whatever. I think that was just kind of like I've almost said the Ruin Reveals, but I don't think you've read that series yet. Mm-hmm. I think that when events that happened later occurred, that was his emergence. Like that was the thing that like happened to him. Like he came like when magic got back loose out into the world. But the one that cracked me up for that and the artwork for this story was the Colonel's secretary, Tracy.
Yeah, secretary.
And so he walks in and there's everything's been more subtle at this point. And so our main character, he walks in and he's been getting like weird stuff. Like, hey, don't touch the ceiling tiles, don't drink the water, like the pictures move, don't worry about it. And then he walks in, and the colonel's secretary has octopus tentacles and waves an octopus tentacle at him and to say hi.
which is the art for this story, which is a really cool picture.
Yeah, it's a great again, posters, man. Tracy would make a great pinup.
Yeah.
But that's the first example in the story of like, no, this is flat out bonkers. Like, things are not normal here. Like, they're not just weird. They're not haunted house weird. These are full on like mutant unusual.
Yeah, it's like BPRD from Hellboy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. A lot of these things he kept getting hit with, and then like they would just go to the next thing, and like I felt, I was like, oh my god, are they gonna like is it gonna get explained? Like, what's happening? And like I kind of it kind of made me feel like maybe I was kind of in the character shoes, because he was like, what the hell is going on? Which like to the point where kind of the twist comes, and I was like, well, that is like why did he seem so like off put if he went through the experience he went through to earn his call sign? You know what I mean? I feel like the twist kind of like took this early part away, diminished it a little bit for me. Because I was like, well, why was he acting like that? But we'll get to that in a second. Yeah. And then so the colonel starts talking to him about, again, I will say I kind of had some trouble with the story. Like, I don't know, like the structure of it. Like I was reading and I was like, what the hell did I just read? And I would go back and I was like trying to really figure out what was happening. Who was saying what, why they were doing this, like what's going on. So like I'm reading this part with the colonel, and they're talking about the adversary emerged, and then he makes a special note to say like, oh, I could hear the capital in that. So obviously the emerged is like a thing rather than just saying adversaries verb emerged. There's something called the emerged, which like as the story goes on, the concept seems cool. Like maybe they're like, you know, the thing that he finds isn't emerged, but is the war against the emerged, but they need to talk to the emerged to get, I don't know, I guess that's later on, I guess, but we'll get to that in a second. So anyway, yeah, he is brought into, because he's really good, he's a really smart, quirky intel guy to, I can't really, I don't really know, like specifically, other than he's good at like putting things in patterns in his head. Is that just, like, I'm confused because they're not aware of how he got his call sign, but they were like super eager to bring him in. So this part kind of confuses me.
They weren't, but they were. And that's explainable by like the secret squirrel classification system or whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's actually a problem I have with the story. So when he says, yeah, my call sign's Ryder, then one of the other ladies working there is like, oh, you were like, you're the writer from that mission.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, that mission. And when the thing is like, if you know about the mission, then why do you not know about the other thing that we're going to get to? Like, that didn't make sense to me. Like, how would you know? You'd act like you know about what happened, but you don't really know about what happened.
Yeah.
Which, again, I can understand. Like, we're doing the cloak and dagger, like, classification, like, intel puke kind of intrigue thing going on here. Like, I get that. But at the same time, that was weird to me. I don't want to call it a plot hole, but I want to call it a inconsistency.
Yeah, that was my thing. Yeah, that was my thing with like the colonel, because she's like, obviously this department that they work for, this is what they deal with, right? This is the weird stuff. So like, if he had that experience, I can't remember where it was at, somewhere in Babylon, wherever that is, current day.
Yeah, Mesopotamia.
Yeah. Like, you think that kind of information would be like kind of directed towards her position. So yeah, it seems weird that she wouldn't have, like, especially the colonel, when you said there was the other person that was like, oh, you got the call sign from that mission. Like, well, why wouldn't the colonel know that? So yeah, I don't know. That kind of threw me off. But anyway, yeah, they bring him in to help them kind of figure out a problem that they're having with a certain supernatural creature. And then meeting kind of adjourned. Major Gabriel takes him out of the colonel's office, keep going through the weird building, open up the blinds in a random hallway. I don't really understand this part of the story. So they open up the blinds. There's like a courtyard out there. Sunlight came through, and like one of the other employees turned around because he was surprised they opened it, because I can't remember what it said, but like I was kind of like, what's going on here? There's like some reason they like to keep the windows closed.
Yeah, so there's never any reveal to it, but from what I understood is there's some kind of int thing going on, or like living
Yeah.
trees kind of deal.
Yeah.
Because it was like, yeah, like we tried to like change the furniture around or whatever, but the trees rioted.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if the trees rioted, then the trees are like they have to be sentient. They have to be like trees don't normally let you know they're pissed off like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I felt from it. But you're absolutely right. That's a section of the story that it's difficult to know. They don't give you enough details for you to know. But then again, we're still in the mode of acting like Ryder doesn't know about anything
Yeah.
crazy, and he's still just in this wacky place where it's like, don't touch the ceiling tiles, don't drink the water, we don't open the blinds. Like, there's just these weird rules. Like,
yeah, I know. I got like when they go into the crypt, and he's like the crypt, and they go in there and they see it. I had to read that a couple times. Like, what is going on here? And then like, once I actually just read through it, it's like I didn't know what's going on until I did know what's going on. Like by the time I got to the end, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. But like at the start of like that whole crypt passage, I was like, what is going on in here, dude? Like, at first I thought they were ghosts. And then it wasn't that, so I was like, "What?" And then but by the time I finished, I was like, "Okay, I guess this makes sense." And the whole water thing made sense at that point.
yeah.
So
it's revealed to catch us up to this point in the story. He heads into their like intel command center where everybody works, and it's revealed that the reason you don't drink the water is not like biochemicals. It's not forever plastics.
Mm-hmm.
It's that there's nanites in the water that eventually kind of turn you into a living computer. And there's literally a guy in the Intel Center that has been transformed enough that he can no longer leave, that he basically is required to stay there for the rest of his life. And his girlfriend is actually a part of the computer systems.
like inside it.
Like she has, she's in it now. She doesn't live in a corporeal form anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She's part of the system.
And the reason he can't leave is because his top secret data in his head.
Yeah. And he can interface with almost any electronic without it being jacked in any way. He can just kind of poke it, and now he's got control of the computer.
Yeah.
So, which was cool. Like, this was a cool, weird thing, and could have been an entire story in and of itself.
Yeah.
But we get dragons instead.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a minute, this thing's called dragons. Like, what the hell? Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of it's just like flavoring like this quirky workplace. But yeah, I had to read the whole thing because like at least that part of the crypt because I did not understand what was going on. And then I read it, I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. But I was like, this is weird. But yeah, weird in a cool way. I forgot what I was gonna. Oh yeah. With the whole like the reason that the James Vinland believed that they were forever chemicals is because the government or whoever's in charge of this thing, which I think is the government, basically did like a PR spin and like the reason you can't drink the water in this area is because of forever chemicals, and they didn't want to tell people it's because there's nanobots in there that'll turn you into a walking computer. And so like this theme comes up a few other times throughout the story about like the government kind of doing a spin on what's really happening and making it more palatable to the public as far as like what explanation they give to explain these sightings that are going on.
Yeah.
Which...
Yeah, and I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed the constant like, oh, well, that's why you hear like, oh, hey, they're not drones, they're baby dragons. Like,
yeah, yeah.
Oh, hey, like it's like okay, that, and we had all the drone. Like I remember when the whole like, there's drones everywhere, what's going on thing, like that whole thing happened. And it's
in
like,
New Jersey.
Oh, okay, cool. That's, yeah. Why is it always New Jersey?
Yeah.
It's.
I didn't even catch that joke till you just brought that up right there. I was like, "What's the New Jersey?"
Yeah, no, that was. I enjoyed that. That was good. That was very well done. Was the whole constant like, the constant government cover-ups were fun. The Dale dribble was right, kind of stuff was enjoyable to me.
I'm always curious, like, what is the reason? Because like I don't feel like the government just covers it up just to like, hey, we're the government, we like to cover shit up. Like, what's the like so in like Monster Hunter, at least like just reading Alpha, Stark is like the reason that we do this is because the more people that become aware of the old ones, the more powerful they get. So that's, and I thought, oh, that's a really cool reason to like need to keep it secret, because you definitely don't want the old ones gaining power and coming into our plane. Or like like Men in Black, they just do it because they don't want to cause mass hysteria, which I'm sure. I mean, they don't really say it in this, but you don't need to. You can kind of I assume it's usually along the lines of mass hysteria or whatever. Oh man. So yeah, where we at? So yeah, he goes through the crypt, learns why you don't drink the water, and then he starts to meet some members of the team, and understands that there's like you said, there's a whole bunch of little baby dragons flying around New Jersey, and this is like the point of the story when he's like comes up with he sees a bunch of footage of dragons, and then like he Gabriel shows some footage that he got when flying up there with his wings, and they almost killed him. Mm-hmm. And James, being the kind of a savant that he is, comes up with ideas that no one else on the team had come up with yet, and new strategies. And basically, he's like, we should catch a baby dragon so we can learn more. And so yeah, they set up a plan to use basically like a chain net to capture a baby dragon. But the baby dragons aren't just like they're fast as crap flyers. They got crazy, like their scales. They don't show up on infrared. I think he catches that they have like active camouflage.
Active camouflage don't show up on radar. Mm-hmm. The dragons were in this universe. I don't ever. They had like an EMP breath almost.
Yeah,
the dragons in this universe are some of the most nightmarish. Just in pure like, it was almost like my little dude will like try and invent a monster, and it'll be like every single thing that he could check off is like, oh, it's like super strong and super tough and super, and it breathes fire and it spits acid and it like can shoot, lightning bolts out of its tail, and like the dragons in this universe are nightmare. They're nightmare for even modern technology.
Yeah.
Which on one hand you start to look at it and you're like, it's kind of cheesy to make the dragon the ultimate predator even now. But the more the story goes on and you look at things, I actually think that was a really cool take on like, this is why nobody ever spots a dragon.
Yeah.
And nobody ever believes you, is you can't get thermal evidence. You can't get radar evidence. You can't like, they have adaptations to all of these things. And then the explanation for where they come from in the end is really cool too.
Like I did like that.
That for me. So yeah, they're dedicated to studying these dragons and trying to learn about them, and they bring him in because he's got, and I mean this in the most endearing way, weaponized autism, basically. He looks at stuff and sees things that other people don't, which he does almost immediately.
Yeah, you kind of get the sense he's got a weird tick, because he constantly refers to these bees in his head, like this buzzing and these bees. And at first I was like, dude, this is too many bee references. But like as it kind of went on, and I realized it was like more of a quirk rather than just like a repetitious descriptive. I actually ended up liking the fact that she was using that. It was like something inside him that was he had to deal with that was annoying, or in this case, weaponized autism. So at first I was like, oh, she's using the word bee too many times, and then I was like, oh, is that an actual thing that she's doing here rather than just being repetitive?
Yeah, some kind of condition that he's. It was funny because it also served as a good like mental dissonance marker, because the more weird things got that he'd never seen before, the worse it got. Yeah. And so I thought, I like you said, I adapted to it quickly. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I was going to say in the last story, I did feel like he used the word elderly one too many times to describe the machines. It was like right in the beginning. But like there's like 3 machines like back to back that he described as elderly. And I was like, it was enough that like it stood out to me. So I just wrote it down.
Right.
But anyway, back to the story. So yeah, he comes up with a plan to capture Baby Dragon. I don't know. Like, I'm still not really clear as to. I guess they're causing trouble, so they want to like I'm torn between like, were they just trying to wrangle these dragons up because, one, they don't want the secret to get out, 2, they pose a potential public safety risk, but then they talk about a war, and I'm like, okay, so what? I don't know. I was a little jumbled on what exactly the goal was and why they were going after these dragons.
I can piece it together that it was, hey, the dragons are like a neutral party, but they're super powerful. And we feel like we can learn, and we want to make sure nobody else is using this power.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the.
His mountain Wi-Fi struck again. He'll come back. He always comes back to me. There he is. Click.
Hey,
there you go.
Yeah. So the dragons are just like one kind of emerged, and I can tell from the way that they were like, oh, the adversary. Basically, they say the adversary has different emerged. So like we have Gabriel and his angel wings, and Tracy and her octo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the dragons feel like a really powerful neutral party, if that makes sense. Like dragons haven't picked a side. And then we got big old mama dragon, and big old mama dragon's like almost a world-ending threat.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I think too, because you don't really see her do much other than roll around and make the snow hiss. But you get the idea that she's so dangerous because of how dangerous her babies are.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So I can see it definitely has that, which I believe is accurate government feel of like, oh, well, that's not really a threat to us, but it could be a threat to us, so we better get control of it first.
Yeah. And then like when he's first seeing the footage, when he first gets to the the office or whatever with his team, and he first sees the footage of the dragons, and he sees the mama, he's like enthralled. He's like, oh wow, this thing's magnificent. And like when I'm reading them, I'm like, oh, it's just, you guys seen a huge dragon, of course it's gonna be like, holy crap, this is really cool. And then the next time he goes in and sees, like right before the mission's about to kick off, I think, he's seeing it. He's kind of focused on Mama Dragon. Again, I'm just like, yeah, it's because she's terrifying and probably super, super powerful. So when it get to that switch, like where it like looked through the camera and it was like you, and he's like me, I was like, what? I didn't, that was a bit much for me. And then like the whole like the bonded, and I was like bonded, and I feel like I never really got like other than so basically the way his call sign is Ryder, and back in some mission he was doing in like you said, Mesopotamia or whatever,
Babylon.
Okay. He found they were going to recover a crashed jet. That's what it was, and so they like pulled the jet out of the crash site, and he found this like it was like a clay disc or something that had a bunch of like weird writing on it.
Yeah, like a ensorcelled clay tablet.
Yeah, and then did he drop it or it just broke in his hand? Something happened and like basically released the dragon.
Yeah.
Everybody died except for him and one other guy, but he like so he calls her Tiamat, because I think that's a Babylonian goddess.
Goddess of dragons.
Yeah.
Who had a dragon form at least.
Yeah. And so like she's coming out of the ground, and he like falls down on her scales. Everyone else like dies from being buried by sand and suffocating or getting lit on fire. Except for the other survivor, which I don't know what's up with that guy or girl. I don't know.
Lucky.
Yeah, just a random survivor. Yeah, I did like I liked a little bit about like he's like they're bonded, but he's like nowhere near her equal, and like she used to be controlled by like mages that would like control her, which was that's cool lore. I was like, I don't know, I didn't really get like how did they get bonded, just because he fell on her, because he picked up the clay disc.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that he because he says like it was totally on accident, but he became the first dragon rider in like millennia, and so I feel like it was like maybe the tablet he found was like the rider's tablet, and something about him let him for a moment just touch that magic.
Yeah.
And so then when they kind of go through the process, they meet eye to eye, and then he ends up being dumped on her from everything falling down, and they kind of like accidentally stumble through this old bonding ritual.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I could get down with that, because like have you read the Aragorn books? Aragon. So yeah, basically like you just that in that situation is basically if you're chosen, you hold the egg hatches, and then you get like a mark. I can't remember what it's called, but you get like a mark on your body, which I think is like it's either your hand or it's just the first place the dragon touches you. I can't remember which it is. But anyway, that's like symbol of like your connection to the dragon. So yeah, I guess I could see like it doesn't have to be some crazy ritual, and you don't have to be knowledgeable, obviously, to bond with the dragon. But I still feel like, and he called himself the writer. I'm like, bro, you did like less than 8 seconds on the back of that Betty, dude. Like, I don't know if we call you a writer, dude.
Didn't even get in passing rodeo numbers, man. Come on,
dude. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like because it's first person, like maybe we could have got some thoughts about, oh, it's her, or you know what I mean, like.
Well, I think, and this is, like I said, this is purely a reader's perspective. I can't speak as an author here because I try not to do the like big twist.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this is a very easy thing that happens where your twist, you either end up being Spielberg or Shyamalan. Like there's no, well, it's like there's no kind of middle ground here. And it was difficult for me as a reader to like make the switch of where he's like, oh yeah, no, I totally know dragons are a thing. Like, and I totally know who this dragon is, and I understood there was some kind of infatuation or connection because the buzzing went away. Like when he looks at her, the buzzing goes away.
Yeah.
But the level of that connection combined with the people that are supposed to know about all the weird stuff don't know about his weird stuff, but they know that he had a weird mission that went really bad.
Yeah.
And it was weird. That the transition, I can't call it bad, but I can call it harsh. It's a harsh transition to where suddenly she's like through God knows what kind of distance, the moment they're connected by a camera is just like, oh, hey, you. And he has this weird thing where he's like almost terrified of her, but knows she won't hurt him.
Yeah.
And that's...
Did he like pet her cheek at the end there?
Yeah, they have this weird... Well, so to move the story along, they try and catch one of the babies, and the babies are still huge, but they use a net. They use Gabriel, who has his angel wings, to have an eye in the sky, and they drop this big, huge net on one of the babies and catch one of the babies, and he actually approaches the baby and kind of coos at it and does like his best Steve Irwin impression, and manages to, though he takes a wound doing it, he gets clawed doing it, he manages to take one of the dragon scales. But then Mama shows up and is like fighting them in some kind of way. I don't know if she's fighting jet fighters, but like they're trying to hold her at bay with somebody somehow. It's not really clear what. She shows up and they have this moment where like they're dragon and rider, they're connected.
Yeah.
But she's still mad as hell at him and thinks he's a punk, which he kind of is, honestly. Like, I can see why she would feel that. Is like, hey, I'm this giant weapon of mass destruction, and you're the intel guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was something else, too. Like, the spatial, what was going on spatially? I was like, I thought the big one was in, like, Newfoundland. And are they in New Jersey? Like, what the hell? Like, I guess I don't know how fast this dragon moves, but, like, where were the babies
at? Geography of it.
Yeah.
And and saying like, hey, you don't understand, like these babies are jet fighter fast. Like, okay, cool, I get that. But even being jet fighter fast, like, it's going to take her an hour to get here.
Maybe she can, like, maybe there's like portals or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the magic is kind of inconsistent. And I know that's a weird thing to say. It's magic. I don't have to explain shit. But at the same time, like, the magic in and of itself compared to itself kind of feels inconsistent.
Yeah, also for me there's kind of this I don't know if it's like being contrived or what, but like what are the odds that there's this organization that deals with supernatural stuff that are not privy to the supernatural experiences of their new intel contractor, and the supernatural experiences that guy had just so happens to be directly related to the thing they're going after. I'm like, what actually are the odds of that lining up with the organization not knowing who the guy is, like not specifically requesting him?
it's really easy, and I've done this sin more than once myself. I fight myself with it. It's really easy to say I'm going to write a short story and then write a story that should be a novel, and this is a story that should be a novel.
Yeah.
And I mean that as a critique and as a compliment, is that the setting we have here, the dragons we have here, the dudes that are turning into computers, all of that, and the quality that we were given of prose, of cool ideas, this deserves not to be a short story. It deserves to be a novel. This deserved more flesh out. It deserved the plot points to have more time so things aren't so jarring.
Yeah.
Because if this was double the length or triple the length, it wouldn't be too long, and it would still, like, you would never lose interest, but it would give you more time to flesh everything out, and I think it would be a better reading experience.
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember, like, when I got to the end and I was like, so, like, what did we do? Like, what was the goal, like, of the character of the story? Like, did we accomplish a goal? Like, I didn't really feel like, I was like, what happened? Kind of thing.
We got a baby dragon scale.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing I took away from it. Got a baby dragon scale, and the place figured out that he knows about dragons.
I feel like the thing about that is, like, that's I understand the push and premise, but, like, especially with who writer is, follow mama around with a pickup truck. Like, she's gonna drop a scale eventually.
Yeah. Or, I mean, she's, she's in Newfoundland, so go over to where she was chilling in that mountain and go ski. She's probably got something, like, laying around there.
Rolling in the snow. She probably left a scale around here somewhere.
Should have just dropped a nuke on it. I guess that they probably wanted to talk to, because they mentioned, like, oh, we're gonna have to go bother a bunch of other Emerge to get more information on this war.
Yeah.
See, I'm really unclear on what exactly the war is.
Well, and that's something that we're left hanging with. Is, like, we don't even know, from, like, a country perspective, or okay, who's the bad guy? Like, does China have their own Emerged and now they're trying to conquer the planet? Does Russia have their own Emerged and now they're trying to conquer the planet? Did a warlord in Africa suddenly have, superpower vampires? Like, what are we? Or
is, like, old ones, just like straight up like aliens, or
which there's a hint at aliens. Like, there's literally a hint in there. There's like, oh no, aliens are a thing too, just not this time.
I thought it was just like how they kind of, like, made it seem like the dragons were aliens. Like, oh yeah, there's the mothership dragon, and then, like, the little. So I don't know if it was like an actual hint to aliens, or if it was just like, oh yeah, we're just referring, because maybe that's like a cover story. Because now the government is like, yeah, aliens exist.
And that's the thing, is, like, the story deserves more. And our ending is in kind of this odd spot where it's like, oh, hey, so you did know about dragons. And it's like, yeah, but I didn't know you guys knew about dragons until you told me we were dealing with dragons. Like, I never knew that I was getting hired to be the dragon guy, like, even though I am the dragon guy.
Yeah.
Like,
and they're like, well, we didn't know we were hiring you as the dragon guy to be the dragon guy. We just wanted a dragon guy, but we didn't know you were a dragon guy.
Which I guess was realistic for the government incompetence of not knowing, the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing.
That's true.
But
that's where I got to give it a little bit of grace there, because the government, I could totally see the government doing that.
Yeah. But this is, and again, I always wrap back around to, like, I need more here, and I mean that in the best way possible. This isn't I want more because I'm a fan. It's I want more because there's questions we didn't get answers to in this that need to put the world together.
Yeah. And, like, I don't necessarily always think that, like, when I read short stories, or I guess even novels, that, like, every question needs to be answered. But, like, yeah, like you said, like, I think some of these questions maybe do, because I'm like, what is happening? I felt just a little bit confused by the time I got to the end of the story. So yeah. But, like I said, it was still. I'm not trying to put it down, but yeah, it's just my honest critique. Wasn't my favorite of the anthology so far. But not a terrible story by any means. I think.
Yeah.
You got anything else for this one?
No, it's. I mean, it's still a good. It's still a solid story. I hope that it gets flushed out. But that's. I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, so I don't know what the plan is for next week. You said you're not available for Sunday.
Well, so I might be. LibertyCon is a not really a big convention in like people. So like I'm come from Atlanta. We have Dragon Con. Dragon Con's like 100,000 people.
Mhm.
There's New York Comic Con, hundreds of thousands of people. Like that's a huge convention. But LibertyCon, depending on what author space you're in, it's an author's con. It's a book focused con. There's going to be so many authors, editors, publishers, all of the like small press, indie presses show up there. Rack Press is going to be there. Canon's going to be there. Three Ravens Publishing is going to be there. Like everybody that does small press is going to be there. The Alpha Mercs are showing out in force. It's going to be, and every time you go, like the book that the antho that just came out that I ended up being the assistant editor on.
Mhm.
That's my first editing credit. The story that is in that I wrote was birthed at LibertyCon last year. Like just talking to people, like that's where it got its big push. I'd had the idea floating a little bit, but when somebody like a publisher looked at me and said, I would love that, do that, was at LibertyCon. So you inevitably go, you make new friends, you make new connections, you start new projects. My project that's coming up the beginning of next year, The Holy Diver in the Midnight Sea, I started asking people to work on that project at LibertyCon. So it's huge for networking. It's a huge networking convention. I'm going to be there. A bunch of my buddies are going to be there, but I have panels all the way into Sunday. So Sunday afternoon, I'm going to be in Chattanooga, 3 hours away. And then, we got to eat. We got to make the drive. So I think I should probably be home by 10 because it's my time. But I don't want to tell you with 100% certainty, yeah, man, I'll be there. It's not going to be a problem because if, knock on wood, I blow a tire, that could be the difference between me showing up and not.
Yeah. Why don't we just do, because it's no fun to be trying to do your thing at a con and be stressing about trying to get back. So why don't we take a bye week for this week coming up? Because I can't, because after that I'll be able to go, I'm pretty sure, unless there's more swim lessons for the other kids, just go back to doing Mondays. So we'll skip next week, be a bye week. Everyone rest your eyeballs from reading. And then, yeah, man, we'll just pick up the week after that on a Monday again.
Yeah, and that'll be the last for Wyrd Warfare, it looks like. Well, hold on.
I think it's 3 stories. Should we want to just knock out all 3 because we're taking a week off?
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that if you want to.
Yeah,
it'll kind of pack how much we get to talk about because we do normally do about half an hour of short story, but
yeah, that's about where we're at right now. I mean, we could just do an hour and a half unless you're. I mean, I know you're at a different time zone than I am, so.
No, being up a little bit late is no problem. Yeah, so that works. Let's do that, and I'll hit Spearman Burke up because me and him talk on like X and stuff an okay amount. So I can't say he's my best friend, but I do have contact with him. So
yeah, he always retweets when I do the stream announcements. So I'm for sure. I've never spoken to him, but yeah, I'm down to have him on.
Yeah, I'll message him and see what we can do. And that'll give us a special guest next time too.
Sweet, man. All right, well, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And chat, yeah, you guys have a great night. Enjoy the rest of Father's Day, and we'll see you when we see you.
Night, everybody.
Later.